Hey gang, welcome back to Cooking with a Fool. Today we're going to be continuing our awesome pork chop recipe. So at this point, before we start the cooking, we actually want to season it a bit just to give it a bit more flavor. Some of the things we're going to be using today is some ground pepper. Sprinkle a little bit of that on there. Beautiful. We're going to be using some garlic powder, one of my personal favorites. And of course the final touch is of course going to be a little bit of thyme. I think that is really one of the most important things when you're trying to... The heck? What the heck? A hat. Why was there a hat in thyme? Hello everyone, my name is Full Hardy and welcome to Hardy's Backlog. This is a series where I take a look at a game that I've always wanted to play, or in this case a game that I want to revisit, and we'll take a look at the gameplay, the story, see how it holds up to my imagination or expectations, and give it an overall score. Today in the premiere episode we're going to be taking a look at a game that came out relatively recently and pays tribute to a very popular and heartwarming time of gaming, A Hat in Time. The first time I heard of Hat in Time was back in 2013 in a Let's Play from Josh Jepson. The game was in a very early alpha stage at that time, and even though it was really rough and the graphics weren't fully modelized yet, I don't know if modelized is a word, the game already had this very unique and distinct charm about it. Something about the way that the character moved, the way the music sounded, the way that the visuals just appeared to you was so enticing, and I was very excited to play it. But unfortunately, I was a bit naive about game development at the time, and I thought I'd be able to play it a few months later. It turns out not. And unfortunately, the game didn't come out a few months later, or even the next year, or the year after that. And unfortunately, as time passed, the game kind of slipped from my memory. That is until about September of last year, 2017. All of a sudden I started seeing reviews and videos of gameplay popping up all over YouTube, and it suddenly burst back into my imagination. I went back and watched that original Let's Play from Josh Jepson, and the game immediately attracted my attention again. Looking further into it, it turns out it was coming out in just a few days. This is super exciting for me because I was already on a huge 3D platformer kick at the time. I just played Ty the Tasmanian Tiger for the first time, Sonic Mania had just recently come out, and of course, Mario Odyssey was coming out a few weeks later, which made me realize something. A Hat in Time is a game about a relatively silent protagonist traveling around a world with very different locations with magical hat-like powers that travels in a weird-shaped spaceship. As I just mentioned, this game came out 3 weeks before Mario Odyssey. I honestly felt quite bad for the developers here for breakfast because they've been working on this for over 5 years, and during its release it's going to almost immediately be overshadowed by a more than likely Game of the Decade contender. I think the only thing that really saved this game from being completely squashed by the hype was the fact that it actually wasn't releasing on a Nintendo Switch. But considering the hype that Mario Odyssey may have stolen away from it, the very delayed and long development time that this game went through, could it possibly live up to all the money that was raised for it on Kickstarter? Well, let's find out. Okay, so hear me out here. A Hat in Time is about a space-traveling kid with weird hat abilities who gets locked into a war with a mafia full of cooks, with her best friend being a small girl with a mustache. What, you need more? Alright. So Hat Kid is this weird space-traveling human-like alien who's on her way home from a location that's not really specified. And I guess it doesn't really matter. Along the way, she passes over this planet which happens to contain a city known as Mafia Town, which apparently, if you pass through Mafia Town, including all the way up in space, you have to pay a toll for it. The Mafia comes up to the ship to collect the toll, and Hat Kid refuses because this is pretty absurd. But unfortunately, the Mafia doesn't take too kindly to that, and he actually breaks right through the window of her spaceship, sucking them both down to Earth, as well as all of her timepieces. Now these timepieces are what power her spaceship. They're these weird hourglasses that actually have the ability to completely destroy and distort the time-space continuum around them. Probably not something you should just leave lying around. And let me tell you, the face that Hat Kid makes as she falls down to the planet, realizing that all of her timepieces, her precious treasure, is scattering all across the world, Yeah, I can relate. Down on Mafia Town, though, she realizes that she's not the only kid that's battling the Mafia. Turns out there's also Mustache Girl. Realizing they have a common enemy, Mustache Girl and Hat Kid actually decide to team up, and we now have our partner in crime. Or should I say, our partner in time. I'll be going now. That's pretty much as I could say about the game without getting into too much spoiler stuff, which, don't worry, we're going to get to that later and there will be plenty of warnings before that. But instead, let's take a look at the gameplay. A Hat in Time is told in almost a storybook kind of style, where the game is broken up into several chapters. Each of those chapters has several acts inside of it, and each act is you trying to complete several kinds of tasks to gain back your timepieces. Some of these tasks that you'll complete along the way include leading a parade, solving a murder mystery, climbing up birdhouses, and every now and then you'll fight a boss. For the most part with these chapters, the acts are actually pretty non-linear. You can do them almost in any order you want, with the exception of the boss fight, which is the last thing you have to do in each chapter. Most of the time. In each chapter though, you'll also find these special blue glowing orbs around the world. These are time rifts. These are caused by the broken timepieces in the world, and when you jump into them, I think it's pretty obvious where they took their inspiration from. These levels were very clearly inspired by the Super Mario Sunshine Floodless levels, and let me tell you, they did fantastic. These levels aren't quite as challenging as the Super Mario Sunshine ones, but they feel great, they have this nice, distinct visual style from the rest of the game, and just, they're a wonderful tribute. Highly recommend. I would play an entire mini mode of just these. Like, please, Gears in Time, Gears for breakfast, not Gears in... I'm really bad with names, okay? Just release like a bunch of these as just bonus DLC, okay? That would be absolutely fine with me. Of course, there's also these purple glowing orbs that you'll find, and these are a little bit different of time rifts. They're actually little comic book kind of things, where as you go through the time rift, you'll collect these pictures, and at the end, if you collect all of them, you'll actually get some very important and nice detailed story about the main characters that you met in each chapter. It's a little thing that you don't have to do to really enjoy the game, but getting this backstory of a lot of these characters and how they got in these situations is just so wonderful. And you'll notice this game is filled with a lot of little things that they didn't need to do, but only enhance the experience so much. For example, each act has its own incredibly detailed, beautifully drawn artwork describing what's going to be happening. It's absolutely amazing. Every time you click on an act, you get something different, and it's just, so good. I love it. Imagine if Mario 64 had that. That would have been really cool. So besides the timepieces, which are essentially the stars of this game, there's also another collectible you'll be seeing a lot, and that's pawns. These little capsules, which look a lot like the things you'll get from the toy machines at the supermarket, are actually the currency of this world. And they are everywhere, so you pretty much don't ever have to worry about running out of them. The main things you're going to use these pawns for is that there's some acts that are hidden behind little pawn walls that you gotta pay to get to. It's usually not that much, and you'll usually earn way more back. And then you use them for upgrading Hat Kid. You see, on your hat that you wear, you can put badges, and these badges give you powers, and you buy these badges from this guy.
Hi there, young one. Every corner of the earth.
Yeah, but the badges, the badges. So these badges give you abilities like getting a hook shot, riding a scooter, collecting nearby items, things that really feel like they should have been actual upgrades. The one problem I have with this is that you can only have 3 badges equipped at once, which I don't completely agree with. One, because I think it would have been cool to see Hat Kid's entire head filled with badges, but some of these, like the camera, really kind of feel like a waste of an inventory spot. I mean, I have to go into the start menu, unequip one of my badges, equip the camera badge, leave the start menu, take the picture, go back into the start menu, take off the camera badge, put on the badge I actually want to use, leave the start menu, and then go back into the game just to take a cool screenshot. Like, it could have just been a passive thing you press a button for, but I mean, the select button isn't used for anything else. It's only for the camera button, and you have to equip it to use the camera. Certain little decisions like that I'm not too sure about. But that's not the only upgrade, because surprise, surprise, you can also upgrade your hat. Besides the timepieces and the pawns, the next thing you're going to find throughout the world is yarn balls. When you collect enough of these, you're actually going to be able to create your own hats. The normal default hat is not really that useful, to be honest. It is the generic hat. But with these upgrades, you can turn into an ice block for ground pounds, you can run faster, you can throw magic balls, which is never really that useful, but you can do it. But that does bring me to one of the really negative parts of this game. The loot box style cosmetic unlockables. I know. Look, we all know that's pretty much something that has to be in every game now, loot boxes. But Gears for Breakfast took it to an all new low. So let me describe exactly what's going on here. So these loot boxes cannot be purchased with real life money. They can only be gotten by in-game tokens that you find throughout the world, or you get a free loot box at the end of each time rift. And once you get something, it's removed from the pool so you can't get duplicates. And it's only non-game changing cosmetics and music tracks. It's absolutely disgusting, alright? I just want to earn my stuff. But no, you make me unlock them in a completely fair way. Why? It is absolutely disgusting how much these game companies are trying to take advantage of us. Trying to move past that though, let's focus on Hackit's movement, which is exceptional. Hackit has the standard double jump you'll find in most of your 3D platformers, but after that jump, she also has a dive, which takes her extremely far. Think Mario's dive from Sunshine. But out of that dive, she gets a third jump, which allows you to get even more distance and precise landing. To add even more mobility to it, she can even wall jump, like climbing up one wall, jumping to the other, climbing that wall, jumping to another one, going up and up and up and up, and eat your heart out, Mario. Plus, she's a pretty violent kid. Hackit has this umbrella that she can attack her enemies with, which, surprisingly, never changes throughout the game. I mean, everything else upgrades. Your clothes, your hair, your hat. The umbrella always stays the same, which is especially weird because it actually has an inventory spot in your start menu. It really kind of seems like an oversight. Now, the enemies you fight throughout the game, I admit, are a bit lacking. Each world has its own few varieties. My favorite, personally, is Lazy Paw Gang, because they're cats. They're also my least favorite because they keep stealing my hat and just give it back! But combat really isn't the main focus of this game. It's just kind of a side thing for you to do while you're going through each level, so I can let it slide. And to be honest, that pretty much covers the gameplay part of this, and we do have a lot of story to cover, so if you guys haven't played the game yet and you don't want to be spoiled, feel free to press here to go to the end of the spoiler section. So Hackit and Mafia Girl, that's not right. So Hackit and Mustache Girl decide to go fight the Mafia in their own headquarters. And surprisingly, you actually defeat the Mafia boss in relatively short fashion. I guess, is that the game? That was easy. Well, not quite, because Mustache Girl accidentally breaks one of your timepieces and realizes they have magical rewinding powers. And it doesn't take her long to realize that she can use this for good to stop the Mafia from ever coming to her town and taking over and rescuing everybody. But Hackit doesn't really want to do this. You see, all Hackit wants to do is go home. These timepieces are her treasure and her spaceship fuel, and she doesn't really want to get caught up in this mess. Mustache Girl doesn't really take this so well. She sees it as you betraying her and vows to get all the timepieces before you can and do what she thinks is right. Oh, and she steals half your pawns as well. All of a sudden, our best friends are mortal enemies. See, this is where I started to have a problem with the game, unfortunately, because in each chapter, the characters are a lot of fun, the story is well developed, the world is just a lot of fun to go around. How many times am I going to say fun? Do I not know any other adjectives? But the thing is, you don't see Mustache Girl again until the end of the game. See, she didn't have to be in every chapter, but maybe little mentions here and there of like her mayhem that she's causing throughout the world, little signs of her destruction, but no, she's not even really brought up again in the entire second and third chapters, even the fourth chapter. She's an afterthought, and she's the main protagonist. And I don't want her to be the main focus the entire time because that would take away from the rest of the game, but I like to look at Kingdom Hearts. The entire game, you know what your goal is in the back of your mind. Save Kairi. She's not the focus the entire time, but it always comes back to that. Hat in Time unfortunately doesn't do that very well. You don't see Mustache Girl again until the final level. And I just don't agree with that way of storytelling. Even just like little graffiti signs or something to remind you that she's going around getting the timepieces before you. But I'm not sure if she ever even actually gets any timepieces that you don't get. But after you're done with Mafia Town, you head to Chapter 2, which takes place at the Dead Bird Studio. Deadbird Studio is a movie studio facility ran by two directors, the Conductor, who specializes in trade-based Western films, and DJ Groove. Wait a minute. Where have I seen you before? Oh my god. And DJ Grooves, who specializes in Moon City-based dance videos, I guess. Both of the directors are using timepieces as the props in their movies, hoping to win the 42nd annual Bird Movie Awards. And they both get you to star in their films as well. On the Conductor side of things, the first movie you take part of is a train-based Western crime, murder, death, stab thing. What was I trying to say? Someone's dead, you gotta figure it out. And to be honest, this is probably the best act in the entire game. You wear a cool sleuth outfit, you travel through the train trying to find suspects, and at the end you gotta try to figure out who did it. And I'm not gonna spoil who did it here, I'll let you guys figure it out. In the second movie, you gotta stop the train from blowing up in like 75 seconds. It's a very fun action sequence, a lot of intense music and pacing, and just a good time. Over on DJ Groove's side, his movies are a bit weirder. In the first movie, which I think is a movie, I'm not sure, you're going around trying to get fans by completing various tasks and saying hi to them and taking adorable pictures. I'm not sure how this is a movie, but at the end they show people watching the movie, but it's a movie about preparing to make a movie. DJ Groove's side is unfortunately a little less focused on what exactly they're doing in each film. The second one is a little bit better because you have to lead a giant parade throughout the city. Lots of fun, very chaotic, good times. I seriously need to learn more adjectives. I'm gonna get a book on this. Book of adjectives. I bet I can Google that. Once all 4 movies have been completed, whichever director scored the highest in points with you is awarded the trophy for Annual Bird Movie Award. And that's pretty much it. Time to move on to the next chapter. Or not quite yet. It turns out that the Bird Movie Awards were rigged due to a timepiece. Now you gotta travel down to the basements of Deadbird Studio and confront the director, who turns out was hiding one of your timepieces this entire time. Piece. Time. Hat and time. So much time. So little hats. You end up getting into a pretty intense battle with the director, who at one point attaches a giant bomb to you. But luckily for you, the other director comes to your rescue, clipping off the bomb at the last seconds, and you manage to defeat the evil director and get back your timepiece. Deadbird Studio is probably my favorite chapter in the game. The characters in this chapter are definitely the strongest in the entire game, in my opinion. The levels are a lot of fun, the things you're doing, the action sequences, the crime solving, the parade leaving mayhem, just walking around gaining fans and the adorable sequences and the pictures, and just so much personality. I love it. I would love an entire game based on just these characters. Just the crime solving one I think would make a really cool sequel to this, or a side game. Overall, if you were to play just one portion of this game, I would highly recommend Deadbird Studio. It's absolutely fantastic. Once we finish up with the movie birds though, we gotta move on to the next part of the game, the Supcorn Forest. Pretty much immediately after entering the Supcorn Forest, you're captured by the Snatcher, this weird demonish devil-like Snatcher. He snatched you up. I mean, the name pretty much describes who he is. The Snatcher takes your soul and forces you to sign a contract to do some of his chores. And I mean, you signed a contract, what are you gonna do, say no? Some of the things you'll be doing is getting rid of fire spirits, delivering mail, and cleaning toilets. There is another thing you'll have to do though, and that is explore the manor of Queen Vanessa. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you here. I've not played a lot of horror games in my time, but gosh darn, this level spooked the crap out of me. The music, the visuals, the just sensation that the game gives you when Queen Vanessa is about to catch you is absolutely terrifying in the best of ways, and it didn't have to use jump scares. I wasn't sure if I was just being a weakling myself at first, but I saw a lot of feedback on the internet where people apparently thought the exact same way I did. I think a big part of this is due to the contrast that this has, because normally the game is really bright and loving and wonderful and fun, good time, and then all of a sudden you got this dark and dirty and creepy and scary and weird backstory themed character and level and house and room and theme, and it's just so different from everything else that it catches you off guard, and it gets you when your sensations aren't ready, and it just Queen Vanessa creeping up behind you at every second, and it gets even weirder and creepier when you learn the backstory of what's going on, which unfortunately they don't tell that well in the game. You do have to play the the purple timer to understand exactly who the Queen Vanessa is, what's going on, and her connection to the Snatcher. And if you want to get even deeper, you can read about stuff online that was removed from the game, including a third character, the Moon Jumper. The lore of this level is just so fantastic and fascinating, and if you like this game, I highly recommend reading up on it, because there's so much in this game that was either removed or not told about this level. This chapter and these characters is just fantastic. Once you complete all the chores for the Snatcher though, he decides you're not really necessary anymore. He's not going to give you your soul back though, he's just going to squish you. And unfortunately, he knows one of the fatal flaws of boss battles is that you hit him when he's blue, for some reason, and there's no blue on him. Unfortunately, the Snatcher's also not very smart, because he throws blue bottles, which you catch and throw at him, and now he's blue. However, once you defeat the Snatcher, comes the absolute cutest moment in this game and possibly video game history.
That's not how contracts work, right?
As soon as that scene was over, I had a feeling this is going to be one of my favorite games of all time. And that's pretty much it for Subcorn Forest if you only play it for the story portions, because there's actually a whole second half of this forest where all of the time rifts are located. And it's weird. During my first playthrough, I only went for the story stuff because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. And before I had finished the final level, I wanted to go back and get all the time rifts so that I can 100% the game. And that's when I discovered there's a whole second half of this level. And I get that this is a dark and scary and spooky forest, but man, it's a dark and weird and hard to get around forest. And I know that means they captured it incredibly well, but I also think I'm just a bit of a loser, and I'm really used to games holding my hands because I constantly got lost in this level. I had to look up guides to find these time rifts because they're pretty difficult to get to. Overall though, if you play just the story portion, I think Subcorn Forest is a lot of fun, but if you're trying to 100% everything, it can be a bit more frustrating as there's no map to help you get around, and you have to do a lot of these little menial challenges in order to get to parts of the forest. It can be a bit frustrating. But that's Subcorn Forest. We got one more chapter to go to, and that is the Alpine Skies. The Alpine Skies continues the tradition of this game of having a completely different style of gameplay for every level. This one is an open world style adventure. It also does something drastically different from the rest of the game, as there's not really a story here. The mountains are inhabited by goats who just kind of decided to show up and live here one day, and besides that, you're pretty much sent on your own to go collect timepieces. It's a bit of a mixed bag because the world is missing a lot of those wonderful characters from the other chapters, but it has some of the absolute best platforming missions from the entire game. In one, you're climbing up to a giant birdhouse, in another, you're scaling up a lava mountain, and then in another, you're going through some weird church tower creepy thing. After each of the 4 timepieces though, you'll notice that the world is apparently being affected by these weird dark flowers that are possessing the goats. After you get the 4th one, they completely take over the mountain range. And this is the boss battle. You have to go around the mountains and destroy each of the 4 flower pot demon things, and as you do that, their power will get a little bit weaker. Once you get all 4, that's it. There's no main antagonist to face, and I guess there really couldn't be because there's not really a story. It just feels a bit off. I'm not sure how to feel about Alpine Skies because it has a lot of good things, but it has a lot of bad things as well. The good things is the platforming. It's absolutely amazing. The music is fun. The visuals are really pretty to look at. The bad things are the lack of story and also getting between the mountains. You travel on these ropes that you use your hook shot on, and it takes forever, especially if you go the long way. It can take 15 seconds to get there, and then you got to turn around and waste another 15 seconds getting back. It feels like a loading screen, which it might be. I never thought of that before. Those could in theory be there because the game has to load the other part of the mountain. I never thought about that before because it's all open world. That does make a little bit of sense though. Either way, it really slows down the pace of the game, and I always dreaded having to go between the parts of the world. Also, I gotta stop saying world because it's on the same planet as everything else, which is odd because she's a space traveler and she stays on the same world the entire time. What is the point of a spaceship? How does she even get back up there? Because you go between every act. I don't know. Why can't she just fly away? You have enough power to turn on your ship and sit there in space. How much farther can it be? When you get 25 timepieces though, which technically means you don't have to complete all 4 of the chapters if you do any time rifts, we finally see Mustache Girl again. She ends up breaking into your spaceship and stealing all of the timepieces you collected so far, because I'm pretty sure she hasn't gotten any yet. And she uses this to create an alternate reality where the world is covered in lava. Lovely. How does she think she's the good guy again? When you reach Time's End, the final chapter of the game, you see that Mustache Girl has set up a castle and has made everybody in the world come to be judged on whether or not they are good or bad. So you march to the front of the line and confront her, telling her, "Mustache Girl, it is not your duty to judge everybody." And then she actually says that we're okay and we haven't gone in her way at all, so we can go. We probably haven't gone in her way because she's not in the game at all. So we realized, hey, we can go, we're free, so we leave the castle and get out of there. That's their problem to take care of.
Really? You're leaving? Not even going to put up a fight? Pathetic.
Alright, we'll save the day. After a small scuffle between you and Mustache Girl, the Mafia says that we don't need you to be our hero. Get lost, get out of here. Everyone else starts joining in, and this drives her crazy. Mustache Girl takes one of the timepieces and smashes it down on the ground to transport you to a distorted battlefield where this will end once and for all. Throughout the fight, both your friends and your enemies throughout this journey realize they need you to win to save their life, so they try to help you out. This just makes Mustache Girl even angrier though, as she starts attacking everyone watching the fight, destroying them. But this makes the Mafia realize that when they're destroyed, they have a heart that appears, and that heart can go to Hat Kid to make her even stronger. The Mafia decide that their life is worth giving up in this alternate reality if it means returning to their home, and they kill each other. Everyone else joins in. Everyone is giving their power to Hat Kid to try to save the world. Mustache Girl, seeing this, realizes that if she wins, she's gonna be all alone. She begs them to stop. She doesn't want to be in a world all by herself, but nobody's giving her any sympathy. And with the power of friends at your side, you become invincible, and you finally defeat Mustache Girl and save the world once and for all. Hat in Time is a magical game. It started off as just one man, and over more than 4 years of development grew to a small team from 4 different countries. And other games have bigger budgets, other games have longer stories, other games have better graphics. And yet here I am calling Hat in Time one of my favorite games of all time. Hat in Time proves that you don't need graphics so intense that you can see every pore on a character's face. It proves you don't need loot boxes or day one DLC or Mountain Dew sponsorships. Hat in Time is a game that's just here to make you smile. It claimed to be a love letter to the GameCube era platformers, but it is so much more than that. Hat in Time is a love letter to gaming. Hat in Time is one of those games that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life, and I want to go back and play several times. When I have a kid and I'm introducing them to gaming, this is going to be one of the first games that I have them play. What makes it even better is that the devs are so wonderful. Not only are we getting 2 DLC chapters completely free, there's also a huge modding community that the developers support and promote, and this modding community is so talented. There's complete recreations of Mario Sunshine levels, there's new cosmetics, there's new completely custom levels. It's absolutely amazing. It's like once you get done with the original base game, there's a whole second game waiting of really well developed modding communities. Unfortunately, it is only on Steam, so I'm sorry to my console bros. If it isn't obvious, A Hat in Time is a game that I absolutely love. And unfortunately, I don't really have a rating system set up for this, but I think that speaks for itself. And to celebrate the launch of my new channel, as well as my just complete infatuation for A Hat in Time, I'm actually doing a giveaway. I will be giving away 2 copies of A Hat in Time for your console of choice. Unfortunately, it's not on Switch, to you lucky viewers. There's more information down in the description below on how you can win it. Go ahead and read that, enter it. It'll be announced in 2 weeks right here on this channel. Hopefully you win, because it's just such a good game. You need to play it. You need to play it. I mean, you don't need to, you don't have to, that's your choice, but you should. It's really good. But I think that's all I have to say for you guys today, though. Thank you for checking out the first video of the new channel. I hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to leave your feedback down below. Until next time, I am Full Hardy. Have a great night, guys. Oh, hey, there's also something in paprika. You suck.